to the Real Collective podcast. I'm your host, Sean Tasse. With me today, we've got Kyle Miller from Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. Before we jump into our conversation today about mortgages, interest rates, monthly payments, house prices, all of that fun stuff that you're looking for, feel free, please, to like the video, share it with any friends who you think might find this valuable or interesting, and subscribe to the page so you can keep up to date with all of these videos, as well as see some new listings before they hit MLS. And of course, you can book an appointment directly with me. And I think, Kyle, you've got a Calendly link in your email as well. So we'll set your Calendly link right down below in the comments on YouTube. Follow us if you're watching us on YouTube. That's great. If you're hearing us on Apple Podcast or Spotify, you can go over and check out the YouTube video for it, because we're going to have some visual effects for this, specifically some things that we'll be referencing when we're going through. So yeah, that's the housekeeping stuff out of the way. I've known Kyle probably for, I'd say, it's got to be at least 20 years. We're getting older. We very first met in what was likely our first sales job.
That's awesome.
Selling knives door to door with cut. I still have my full butcher's block set, man. I don't know about you.
I told my wife, I'm like, if this thing doesn't work someday, I'm leaving with the dog and my knives. Like, that's it. Apparently I didn't bring anything else, but the knives are coming with me.
They're still sharp. Look, I'm still cutting stuff 20 years later with these knives, and great sales training, right? And understanding how to be a sales professional without being cheesy, right? Being someone who helps. I think the product helps a lot, right?
The product helps, and it was the passion too. Like, for some reason, at 18, 19, 20 years old, we were convinced, and still are, obviously, that this is the best thing since sliced bread, or two sliced bread, like whatever. But it was, and they are, like, they still are. So it was an easy thing when you learned that the passion was real and you were just believing it. You weren't selling. You're just showing people how cool knives were.
Yeah, you're a 20-year-old guy showing up at somebody's house with a red rollout of different knives. It's a weird look altogether. But yeah, it was
the penny.
Yeah,
the pennies.
That's it. Yeah, I have two of those.
Awesome.
That's great. So now we've both progressed on to different things. Obviously, we both have a passion for people, a passion for helping people out, and we're both in sales streams. Obviously, Kyle, a professional mortgage broker. I'm a real estate broker. Two salespeople who are broker. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kyle. What you've done over the last, building out your business, and where you find yourself today, and what makes you qualified to talk about stuff about mortgages.
Well, I guess I've seen a lot. I've been in the business now for about 13 years. I started off actually as part-time, as I was trying to exit a couple other jobs that I was in, and slowly got rid of two other jobs to take this on full-time. And now it's starting back in 2010, 2011. So we're in that space. That's how long we've been in the space. Well over 200 on our way to $300 million worth of mortgages, which sometimes in the space, people are like, it's not that much. I'm like, it is, when 90% of it came in the last 6 years. So that was good. Probably close to 1,000 clients, I guess. So we've done a lot of deals, seen a lot of things, definitely through the Ottawa market, and seen a lot of changes. And I think that's the biggest thing is, every year that I've been in business, there's been some type of change, whether it be rules, market, interest rate, something that says a deal I did a year before, I couldn't do again today the same way. So seeing all those changes roll has been great for development. It's been great for just explaining to people how it works, and just showing the fact that, this isn't your mom's mortgage time. This isn't your uncle's market. This isn't your grandpa's market. It's not even your sister's market from 2 years ago. Yeah. So that constant evolution and change is what we live in, and part of the fun, part of the downfall. But that's what it is. So
I think it makes us uniquely able to serve our clients today, right? You hear about you hear about some people who are dropping the ball, or things aren't happening. But when guys like you and me, we're in it all the time. We're living and breathing this stuff, right? It's what we wake up looking at, when we go to sleep thinking about, and people are saying, oh, I saw this game, or I watched this thing, or I did this, whatever. And I'm like, I'll tell you about the real estate deal that I just, read about, that blew up on this forum that we talk about for like legal issues and matters. That's the stuff that gets me excited. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hear you. Like we're both sort of all in about it, and I think it's one thing for me that I'm super happy to have you here and talking about it. So at the time that we're recording this, they just yesterday announced the rate increase. So that was the sort of the catalyst to say, let's find Kyle and reach out, have a chat about it. And that is the sixth. Is it the sixth this year? The fifth?
Seventh consecutive. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
That's been big. That's been the top, like that's been the whole conversation for 2022. Rate pumps.
Yeah. And yeah. And I mean, there's no sugarcoating it, right? Like I've seen my payment personally jump, $1,200. Like I'll just say it. Like that's what my payment's done on my mortgage, because I'm in a variable rate mortgage. I think the thing to note though, really, and as I don't say a warning, but definitely something as a disclaimer to people too, is because I get very passionate about certain things, not interest rates, yes, but it's that the prime rate was increased yesterday for the seventh time, and that will directly affect people who have variable rate mortgage or home equity lines of credit, anything tied to prime. But all the rates have not moved up, right? So fixed rates and variable rates move on different metrics, if you will. They affect each other in the end, but at the same time, not necessarily. So as prime was getting ready to move from January to now, that's when we saw a big spike in fixed rates. And as of yesterday, even though they increased the prime rate, a lot of the fixed rates have actually started to drop. So when people come out and say rates are moving, all the rates moved, they're wrong. They haven't all moved. They've already moved some direction, but they didn't all move yesterday. So it's a big key for people to look at your situation, your term, your mortgage, your whatever it is, to see if something affects you, because it may not affect you, right? And it's that clickbait and just that narrative of just like this one thing is all of it, and it's not. Doesn't make it any less impactful. It just people really have to take stock of their situation and how this thing affects them, or it doesn't. It's going to affect everybody at some point, because people that have rates of less than 2% that they got over the last 2 years, they'll have to renew someday. Yeah, good for you. They'll have to renew someday, right? Yeah. People that just got in to the market, because there's nothing wrong with still getting into the market, they're going to be wondering, like, well, if rates start to come back down, how is that going to affect them in 2, 3, 4 years? So it's always going to affect you at some point. But if we worry about today, what's happening today, maybe you're not affected at all, right? Yeah. So I guess there's some disclaimer in there.
If I remember what I heard correctly, is that the 5-year fixed rate has come down slightly because the bond yields are going down. So the 5-year fixed rate is going it's not going, like it was 5.29 and now it's like 5.15 or something like that. Like it's not drastic, but that is sort of painting a picture. Like you said, okay, great. Not great. The variable rates have gone up by a half point, but maybe some of the posted fixed rates are coming down a little bit. So it's like you said, for each person, it's different in each situation. But there's this whole overarching idea or fear that people said, oh, well, it's like Chicken Little, like not the sky is falling, the rates are increasing. Well, and people thinking, well, that means that house prices are going to come down. And so as a result, we're seeing a lot of people sort of sitting by and waiting, sitting on the sidelines, right? Buyers who could be buying and are not buying because they're waiting for the prices to come down even further.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I don't think there's no lying about prices having fallen, values having changed since, December of last year.
Yeah,
right? Or January of this year, let's say. So it's just a bit, but I also think it depends on, there's a mentality there too that has to be addressed with a lot of us. And it's like, what's the point? Like, what are you buying the house for? Right. Because if you're buying it to live in it and live in it for probably a decent amount of time, right? Yes, you care about the value of your house, but it actually won't affect you today, right?
right.
Like the value of my house going down X amount of dollars from last year to now doesn't do anything to me, right? If I'm not refinancing, if I'm just living there, I got to pay somewhere to live, right? And now it might actually be a little bit cheaper to just own that house than it is to rent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if the mentality is you're going to cash out your house as an ATM, no, you probably got hurt. Very much so. But if you're living there and that's the place for a while, like you're probably in a fine position.
Yeah. Well, it's like the stock market. If you're holding your stock, it only starts to matter when you're thinking about selling it, right? And so I think some people are saying, oh no, again, the prices are falling, so I better sell and get out. Well, no, you just like you said, you have to live somewhere, so just stay there. There are some people, some investors, some house flippers that have been really stuck holding the bag, that bought in. I'd say the peak was probably in March, April, and then since then the average price has probably fallen about $200,000 to now. So that's a fall from grace. We're talking about 25% drop. Now we're still in line with 2021 prices, right? So like 2022 went like this and like this, and 2021 started here. We went like this and we're back here again. So you can't see this on if you're only listening to the audio, but just you can make sense of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And and that's, I mean, that is part of it. That's part of, I don't want to say the game, but again, it's the mentality of it, right? And it's I think in my world anyways, right? I think if there's a big split between not what you do and what I do, but different ends of the customer part is real, as a real estate broker, real estate agent, you guys get to have to handle the massive emotional side of what goes on. On my side, it's my realm and my duty, my job to make sure people understand the numbers and how this works, right? Like we're conditioned that the lowest rate is going to get you the best payment, and in essence, I can't argue that. Yes, however, a slight lower payment doesn't necessarily negate you a massive amount of savings, right? And a slight change in interest rate isn't going to save you or cost you an absolute ton of money. It could look like it, or right, and it might feel like it will. But when we put the numbers out there, it's not. It sometimes isn't as drastic as people think it will be. Um, and again, that's the difference. Is everybody's saying the rates are up, then everything is up, or the rates went up 50 points, so everything's going to double or something like that. And really, yes, they're up, but we look at your situation, it hurts, but maybe it hurts a little bit less because we actually did the work to sort that out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that same point, you shared a chart with me before. I'm going to put it up on the screen here, just so that if you are watching on YouTube, you can see here. And this was great, right? The average price in March 2022 in Ottawa was $850. The average price in October 2022 was $670. I just looked at the numbers for November. They posted the numbers for November 22, and they're $650. So, I mean, we're talking a drop in price of $200,000. The interest rate in March, 3.09. Interest rate now to 5.29. Again, I think it's down to like 5, and they're different, right? Every place is different. You can't really say this is the rate, right? But
yeah, there's caveats to this stuff for sure. But we got to pick one at least.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So the qualification rate in March was lower. Obviously, the qualification rate currently is higher. That makes sense. But the most important thing, and the reason why people are getting so hung up about, the sorry, the reason why I think the house prices are coming down is to maintain the same level of monthly payment. Because when you plug everything into this chart and you look at it at the very bottom of it, the monthly payment is, pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, it's actually,
Yeah, go
by
ahead.
those numbers, it's $8 more expensive.
Sorry, yes, $8 more expensive per month. And so people are saying, oh well, the house prices are going to come down even more. Okay, well, sure, the house prices might come down a little bit more, but that's likely going to be a result of the interest rates going up, and the interest rates are going up, and as a result, the monthly payment's going to be about the same, right? Like,
Yeah.
before working in the real estate industry, I worked in a car dealership, and I'll say it, it was a Ford dealership. And every summer we would do Ford family pricing, right? And you know what happened during Ford family pricing? You got to buy the vehicle for the same price as somebody who worked at the car dealership. Or worked in the plant, and that was wonderful. And Ford family pricing would typically take place in the summer, July and August. Okay, and so I do a payment for somebody on a truck on June 30th, where they didn't get the big manufacturer discount, but the rate was lower. Right, the posted rate was lower, and then on July 1st they'd get, or July 2nd, because that day was a holiday. I would do the payment for the person, and the discount would be huge. But you know what they did? They bumped up the rates, and you know what happened to the payments for that same truck? They were about the same, right?
So house doesn't lose.
Right. So
Yeah.
If you want to live in a house that's average and drive a truck that's average, you're probably going to be paying about the same money per month, right? And it's the things I think that are hurting people right now is that there's other stuff that is going up in price, right? Gas is getting more expensive. Maybe you're not driving a truck anymore. Groceries are more expensive. Everything's feeling like it's pushing and twisting, right?
I'm of the mind that it's not, yes, mortgages are it's the highest rates we've seen in over 10 years, right? When I started this business, we were coming out of 5.5% and 6.5%.
Yeah.
So it's not like this has never been here. But it's a perfect storm of stuff where you know, through whatever policies, blame whoever you want, however you want. I'm not here to tell you how this works, but the prices have skyrocketed. Now rates have caught up, which makes it tough. But the other things that were tough in the time is the fact that, cars, I say it on my social all the time, cars kill deals. Like our car payments are insane.
Yeah.
The access to unlimited credit is wild. And easy, simple credit, and that kills people's disposable income. Wages not increasing, another thing. Of course it is, right? All that stuff combined. It's not necessarily the house. It's the majority of it, in my opinion, is the other things, right? If we can tackle that, then the house stuff is fine. And people say, well, no, that's not true. I see it every day. I have clients who have big debt loads and now can't do things. I have similar clients who make less money but don't have big debt loads, and they're just fine. It doesn't feel great, right? We're comparing two, pardon me, shitty situations,
Yeah.
but I mean that does balance itself out to a point. So I'm not telling people like one of our elected officials to stop watching Netflix. I don't mean that. It's watching. It's all the other stuff that I think is impacting our household budgets and stuff way more than just the rising interest rates.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's the numbers that tell the story. not the feeling about the numbers.
And they do tell a really clear story. Let's take a quick break. We'll do a quick word from our sponsor here, and we'll jump back into a quick Q&A in the second half. This has been great so far. Of course, as always, guys, hit that like button, subscribe button, and share this with a friend who's looking. If you'd like to schedule an appointment with either of us, you can click the Calendly link below. And we'll see you on the other side.
This episode of the Real Collective podcast is brought to you by Real Collective. Real Collective brings together best-in-class real estate agents and collective experts in the field to deliver the best possible service to our clients. We govern ourselves with honesty, open-mindedness, and compassion. With diverse skill sets, our agents are able to better serve a wide array of clients, including first-time buyers, first-time sellers, transferees, estate sales, investors, and rural, vacation, and luxury properties. Authenticity and transparency are pillars of our process, which allows us to put our clients at the center of everything we do. Our years of experience and knowledge allow us to deliver prestigious service and optimal results. If you are interested in buying or selling your home, contact us today at realcollective.ca.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Collective podcast. As always, I'm Sean Tasse, and today joined with Kyle Miller from Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. Kyle, I didn't ask you, how can people find you?
Oh, I hope you can find me, because I seem to put myself out there. Socials are there, so I'm on TikTok, Instagram. Find me on my Facebook page. Usually just Kyle Miller, mortgage agent, mortgage broker. It'll be there. Should be fairly high on Google. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job properly. Throw my email down there if you want. Kyle at mortgagebrokersottawa.com. It's there. Sure, there's a phone number I could give you too, but that'll be listed somewhere, I'm sure.
Easy peasy. Awesome. All right, guys, as always, if you are liking what you're seeing, hit the like button. Share this with some friends who are interested in finding out more information about mortgages and prices in Ottawa, the whole real estate game. And hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date and see some new properties before they hit the MLS, and some pretty funky videos, if you ask me. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So we talked a lot about mortgages in the first section. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A here in the second section. So you know, a lot of people, Kyle, are coming up and they're saying, you know, is now a good time to buy? I think that's the question everybody wants to know. People want to time the market, right? So is it a good time to buy now?
And again, sometimes this can be a matter of opinion, but I don't think there's a bad time to buy as long as you can afford it. And maybe that's cliche, but the Ottawa market has proven, and this is so specific, right? Like, this is Ottawa. We're not talking GTA or GVA or anything like that. The Ottawa market has proven time and time again that we can weather this storm because of all the economic factors we have, with lots of government, techs, massive rebounding, right? We have 5-6 big hospitals here. So there's good unionized, stable positions there. All the schools and teachers who are relatively, you know, overall good wages. We could argue about that too, but that's different stuff. At the end of the day,
same with the hospitals. We'll skip both of those.
Yeah, skip both of those. But it's different podcast. But it's like, all of that has proven time and time again that overall we're very stable, right? And there's been discussion that Ottawa's finally come into its own from a pricing and value standpoint, which, again, timing kind of sucks because of the way the rates have gone. But that's probably not forever either. So is now a good time to buy? I think we just showed on that chart. I don't think it was a worse time to buy from a payment standpoint, right? If you can afford it. There's always going to be an argument about equity and price value changes and people being underwater and things like that, 100%. And those are their own specific issues. But from a payment standpoint, we've already shown no one was better or worse off over the last 8 months to buy. So if you're living there, going to live there for a while, 5-7 years, I don't see a reason why not to, if you can qualify and do it.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'd argue, and again, this is my personal opinion, that you're better off buying based on, I mean, if you want to time the market, you're supposed to buy low and sell high. This is, I mean, basic grade 10 economics. one thing that you can't control, none of us can control, is what the interest rates are doing. Right. So, they're higher, as high as we've seen in the last 10 years now. But there's chatter about moving forward, them coming down. We've even started to see them come down a little bit on the fixed. Right. So if you want to time the market, you're supposed to buy low, sell high, go.
But I was going to say, I thought you were going to say what was in my head, which was, I think if you want to time something, in our case here, you're trying to time your next interest rate move, your next mortgage move, right? So assuming you're living in your house, it's the place you're going to stay for a good while, right? Yeah. What you're trying to do is keep yourself in a position to be mobile enough to get a better interest rate when it happens, not pay a huge penalty, which can come with, interest rates changes, obviously. So, just blindly saying like 5 years is the way to go, because that's what I do, right? I don't think that's a good move right now. You want to time, okay, we know this is where it is. We know they're in the low fives to mid fives, maybe if you're lucky, a little bit of a low four, right? But how long can we sustain that as an individual household? How long can we do that if they're going to come and when do we think they're going to come down? Yeah. Because we want to be in a position to move to that new lower rate and payment potentially and situation as soon as we can, so we're not stuck on a longer trend of higher payment, and getting out of that costs you more. Because what ends up happening, and it's counterintuitive, when interest rates drop, in essence, penalties go up. As interest rates rise, penalties go down. So right. People that are in the 5.5s and are like, whew, I locked it in. And when rates drop back to 4.8, 4.7 in whatever, we'll talk about that probably in a sec, right? And they want to get out, they're gonna get jammed with that penalty.
Right.
So when that happens, now you're adding that to your mortgage most likely. So now you're borrowing more money at a lower interest rate, but the difference doesn't matter. It's still the same payment.
Same thing. Yeah.
So if you're timing anything, you're trying to plan for the most opportune time to be able to switch out of what you have into something better. So that's, I guess, the way I would put it.
So whatever mortgage product you're picking up now, find the one that gives you the flexibility to move when the timing is right.
Yeah, like I'll use myself for an example. We were doing renovations at the house and mortgage came up for renewal and maturity, whatever. So yeah, just fire me into the best variable rate that we have. And we did, because when we knew we were going to refinance to consolidate some debt, finish some renovations and whatnot, the penalty on a variable is typically substantially less at 3 months interest than a fixed. So I'm not going to take a 5-year fixed, even though it was lower at the time. I'm not taking a 5-year fixed. Then you just get smoked on a penalty, right? Yeah. Someone out there is going to say, but you could blend and you could do this. Yeah. I know that. But to keep it simple, right? We're going to take the variable. And now my variable's higher than everything else. Yeah. But when prime starts to drop, I'm also going to be the guy that gets the lower payment first, because it's going to happen automatically. Yeah. So it's for me, that was my roll of the dice. But that's the balance. And the real conversation now is about cash flows. How do you weather the next X amount of time before the rates do start to come back down, especially from a variable perspective, right? I think a lot of people are focused on cash flow. It leads into the next conversation, because the main question that a ton of investors have is about cash flow, right? And I think investors, especially on the low end, have really been driving our market. And investors are all kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, I'm not going to buy right now because I can't buy a house and get cash flow out of it. Even some of the SDU conversions don't make sense, because the purchase price plus the cost of renovations is not going to get you either your cash flow or the ARV that you need to be able to refi and for that to make sense. So it's a tough spot for investors, but end users, I think, are primed to make some good purchases in the next little while. What do you have in terms of predictions? Like, what do you when will rates come back down, or what are we going to see in terms of rate changes moving forward into 2023? And again, nobody knows. What do you think? So if we start with, I don't know, but if I had an opinion about it, right? We were at a national mortgage broker conference in early October, and got to sit in with Benjamin Tall, who's a CNBC economist.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the economist. Great. He's super dry, but he's funny for an economist. Anyways, we were talking. He was going through what his predictions were, and I agree with him, and I'm kind of regurgitating. So we're gonna go with that, as I agree with his prediction, and that's kind of what I'm running. His thought was, and his encouragement to the Bank of Canada was, you've got a terminal rate, overnight rate of 4.25 to 4.5, which is literally where we are today. The overnight rate's at 4.25. We might see another bump to 4.5%, which means, and at that point, they're probably going to hold off. Why? Because they're trying to tame inflation. Tiff has said that, right? We're just, whatever we can do to bring this stuff down, that's what we're going to do. But inflation's a lagging indicator. It takes 3 to 6 months to figure out if you've actually done it. And quote Ben Tall, he was saying it's typically 6 months from the peak. So yes. If we think we've peaked now to January, we're not even going to know we've peaked until like June.
Yeah.
So if they feel that they've done it, they're going to keep that. They're going to keep everything steady, which means they're not going to move. They shouldn't move anything after January, if they even do. And then we're going to hit June. We're going to look back and say, how did we do and what are we doing? And they say, we're doing well. We think we've got it. The odds are they're going to say, great, let's keep it. Let's keep it there. Because historically, what the central banks have done, again, just regurgitating slightly here, is they'll overcorrect on trying to tame inflation. So they'll ram the rates right up. But then the minute they see a little bit of relief, they drop them too quick, and then everything just goes right back up again.
Right.
So they've known that, hopefully are learning from that and saying, hey, look, we did a great job. Yep. And now we're going to keep doing a great job, and it's going to stay. So what does that mean? Probably don't see any real relief, significant relief in terms of the prime rate dropping, probably till end of 2023, maybe even into 2024. And then it'll start to come down and get a little bit more back to the normal. And from a fixed rate standpoint, we'll see how the bond market reacts to that, because the bond market will react to someone sneezing on a Wednesday and just be like, oh, I thought this was going to happen. And then it all changes and then stuff goes nuts. So we'll see what happens there. But then we could start seeing the fixed rate start to slowly grind down out through 2023 into 2024. So currently, like, I'm not doing very many 5-year fixed mortgages, and Canadians love those, and they're priced to love them. Right. We're definitely encouraging people to look at the 2 and the 3 year, and we've seen a change in that too. 2-year money is more expensive than 5-year money. Right. But 3-year money is kind of sitting right in the middle. So the banks are playing the game. Banks are playing the game, and they know. And that's kind of what I'm feeding off of and looking at. And again, I think if there's anything we've seen, that could change on a dime. Yeah. Good or bad. So again, trying to time it at a 2 or a 3 year fixed, if that's what you're feeling, because you can't manage, and I mean this with the utmost respect. Some people just mentally can't handle the fact that they're going to get a letter every other month saying, my payment's going up again, because they want to sleep at night. Good for you. Sleep at night. That's fine. Right. So what we'll see is you take that shorter term to leave yourself the opportunity to get out of the higher side of things into the new lower side of things sooner rather than later. And hopefully that gives you the relief that you need.
That gives you the opportunity to take advantage of the lower price and the potential for a lower rate that's coming down the pipe. What about people who bought at the peak and they're freaking out and they bought with variable and they just keep seeing these things? Are we seeing people going into default, or people who are in an underwater position? What's the advice that we're giving to these people?
There's a couple of things there, and it's very nuanced. Like, it's easy for media to spout out, like, I saw an article the other day that's like, this many thousand people are underwater on their mortgage. Okay. Is that false? No, but it's also not, like, our system is designed and set up to weather that storm. And what I mean by that is, most people hear the words, you're underwater in your mortgage, and like the bank's knocking at the door the next day. Understand this, the banks don't want your house. They are not property managers. They don't like repos. They hate them. It's too long. It's too expensive. It costs them more money. They can't even get any profit out of it. They could only ever sell your house for to recover their loss at best. So they're not even making any money. So they don't want to kick you out, right?
Yeah.
So what typically will end up happening is you just have to, you're going to do your best, because you can't say it's always going to work. You're going to do your best to renegotiate with your lender, right? We've already seen, I'll use TD as an example because it's just easier. TD has a static payment variable. And we've seen, and what that means is at the time you had a rate and you fixed your payment. But as the variable rates increased, your payment didn't. So you were just gaining all this extra interest. Well, extra interest really, at the end of the day, just translates to a longer amortization. And eventually there's a cutoff point called the trigger rate where the bank says, hey, you got to start paying more because your amortization's gone from 25 or 30 years to now 40 or 50, right? Well, they can do that because it's their money. They can sit there and say, okay, fine, this is what your payment is now. Yes, it's a big shock to the system of the borrower, 100%, but they're not coming to take the house. They're just asking you to say, we need to pay more. And if you can't, what can we do? Because ultimately they can do whatever they want and fix that. And if it's an insured mortgage through CMHC or Sagen or Canada Guarantee, they have systems in place where they're allowed to allow the banks to re-amortize. Now, just came out the other day, back up to 40 years if they had to.
Wow.
So you can't buy and get 40-year amortization, but you can call your insurer, you can call the bank directly and say, what can we do? I need some payment relief. And they'll fix it up because it's built into the background of stuff. People just think you pay this fee to CMHC and then just because to be honest, we don't give a lot of details about it, but there's programs built in for people who are on financial duress situations like this. You can work with them to do it because they don't want to kick you out. They don't, right?
That's good to know. That's a whole other podcast right there. But
I can keep sorry.
That's good, man. We have talked about a bunch of stuff. I think this has been super helpful, and I'm glad that we had a chance to jump on and to do this. So yeah, people can find you on the socials. We'll post some of them below your photo here, below my photo here, and as well down in the comments on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, click over to the YouTube channel, find all the details, and you can see those beautiful visuals that we shared. You can stop and screen grab them and save them in your database and in your photos roll and really analyze it if you want. Questions about it, hit us up. As always, click the button, schedule an appointment, a Calendly appointment if you'd like, and share this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those wonderful things. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.
Amen.